Stop rinsing your lettuce and thinking you're safe. That single habit, the one almost every senior in America was taught by their own mother, is doing almost nothing against what's spreading through our food and water supply right now. As of this week, the CDC has confirmed over 1,600 cases of a parasite called Cyclospora across 34 states, and that number is coming in at more than 6 times the pace of last year. Nearly 1 in 10 of those people ended up hospitalized, not from a stomach bug, from something that can trigger explosive weeks long diarrhea that in a frail older body can spiral into dehydration severe enough to land you in the emergency room. I want to say that clearly in the first minute because I don't want to scare you, I want to arm you. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which everyday habit is putting older adults at the highest risk. And you're going to know the one twist in this outbreak that almost nobody is talking about: the fact that this might not even be coming from your salad, it might be coming from your water. Stick with me, because that piece alone could change how you drink, cook, and even garden this summer. Before we get into it, I do this every single video, and I mean it. Tell me in the comments how old you are and who you're doing this for. Are you protecting yourself? Or are you the one watching out for a parent, a spouse, a neighbor down the hall? I read every single comment. And honestly, they shape what I cover next, so don't be shy. I'm going to walk you through this as a countdown. 5 habits and protections down to the single most powerful one. The one thing that, if you only remember one item from this whole video, could be the difference between a rough week and a hospital stay. Ranked from good to know all the way up to absolutely critical. Let's start at number 5. Number 5. The way you're cutting your produce might be undoing all your washing. Here's the picture I want you to hold in your mind. You've got a cantaloupe on the counter. You rinse the outside, feel good about it, and then you take your knife and slice straight down through the rind into the sweet flesh underneath. If that parasite was riding on the surface of that melon, your knife just became a delivery vehicle, dragging whatever was on the outside straight into the part you're about to eat. Food safety researchers have documented this exact mechanism with cantaloupe specifically tied to past listeria and salmonella outbreaks, because that netted, porous rind is basically built to trap contamination, and a blade just carries it inward in one clean stroke. Why does this matter more for an aging body, specifically, than a younger one? Because the dose that would give a 30-year-old a rough 48 hours can hit an older adult far harder. As we age, the immune cells that patrol the lining of our gut, specifically a type called T cells, become measurably less responsive. Researchers looking at gut tissue from adults in their late 70s compared to adults in their late 30s found the older tissue had a blunted, slower immune response right at that first line of defense in the intestine. So, the same exposure that your neighbor's college age grandson shrugs off in a day can settle in and take weeks to clear in someone older. The fix here costs you nothing and takes 10 extra seconds. Scrub the rind of any hard skinned produce, cantaloupe, cucumber, even avocado, under running water with a clean brush before you ever bring a knife near it. And here's the synergy tip almost nobody mentions: do this over the sink, not the cutting board. Because if you scrub on the same board you're about to cut on, you've just contaminated your cutting surface too. Wash the produce, dry it, then move it to a clean board. Small habit, real protection. Number 4, and this is the one that quietly kills more people in this kind of outbreak than the parasite itself does: dehydration. I want you to really sit with this number. Researchers have found that when older adults are hospitalized specifically for dehydration, roughly 17% die within 30 days, compared to about 7% for similarly sick patients who weren't dehydrated. And in some studies looking at Medicare patients specifically, close to half of seniors hospitalized with dehydration die within a year. That is not a small statistic. That is the real danger hiding inside something as ordinary sounding as diarrhea. Here's why aging bodies specifically get blindsided by this. When you were young, your body was somewhere around 60% water. By your 70s, that number has dropped closer to 50% because muscle holds far more water than fat does, and muscle mass naturally declines with age. On top of that, the sensors in your brain that are supposed to trigger a thirst, called osmoreceptors, get less sensitive over time. There's a well known study where healthy older men went a full 24 hours without water, and even with their blood chemistry showing clear signs of dehydration, they reported barely feeling thirsty at all. That means by the time you actually feel thirsty, you're not catching dehydration early, you're already behind it. Now stack a parasite that causes frequent watery diarrhea on top of a body that already runs a smaller water reserve and a duller thirst alarm, and you can see exactly how this turns dangerous fast. So here is the practical version. Don't wait to feel thirsty. If you or the person you're caring for has any GI symptoms right now, set a timer, not a feeling, a literal timer, and take small sips of fluid every 20 to 30 minutes. Plain water is fine, but for real fluid loss like this, you want electrolytes in there too. Because you're not just losing water, you're losing sodium and potassium along with it. A simple oral rehydration mix, the kind you can get at any pharmacy, or even a homemade version with water, a pinch of salt, and a bit of sugar, works better than water alone because sodium actually helps your gut absorb the fluid faster. And the synergy tip here: pair fluids with small amounts of food if you can tolerate it, like broth or bananas, because taking in a little sodium and potassium from food alongside your fluids helps your body hold on to that hydration instead of just passing it right through. Alright, before I go further, if this kind of information feels useful to you, do me one favor. Hit subscribe and tap that like button because it genuinely tells the platform to put this in front of more families who need to see it before something like this reaches them. I put a lot of research into every one of these, and the honest truth is the algorithm decides who sees it, and you deciding to like or subscribe is what tips that scale. Alright, back to it, because the next three are the ones I really want you to sit with. Number three, what you eat in the days after any GI exposure can actually change how your gut recovers. And there's a specific compound getting real scientific attention right now. It's curcumin, the golden compound in turmeric, the spice sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. Here's the honest, fully transparent version of the research, because I'm not going to oversell this to you. There is no human trial yet showing curcumin treats Cyclospora directly. But there's a fascinating body of published research, some of it out of poultry science and other peer reviewed journals, on curcumin against a very close cousin parasite called Diarrhea, which causes a nearly identical disease in birds and is actually used in labs as a stand in for Cyclospora because the real parasite is so hard to grow experimentally. In these studies, chickens fed curcumin showed measurably reduced parasite shedding, better gut lesion scores, and stronger antioxidant activity compared to chickens on a normal diet. Why would that matter for an aging human gut specifically? Because as we get older, our cells accumulate more oxidative stress, essentially a kind of cellular rust, and our mitochondria, the energy factories inside every one of your cells, become less efficient at cleaning that rust up. Curcumin appears to work by hitting invading organisms with an extra wave of oxidative stress, while simultaneously calming inflammation in the surrounding tissue, which is exactly the kind of dual action an aging, more inflamed gut could use extra help with. So, here's the practical, honest way to use this. This is not a substitute for medical treatment if you're diagnosed with an active parasitic infection. Think of it as gut support, not gut cure. A reasonable approach used in general wellness is around half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon of turmeric daily, stirred into food. And here's the synergy tip that actually matters scientifically: pair it with black pepper. Curcumin is poorly absorbed on its own, but a compound in black pepper called piperine has been shown in research to dramatically increase how much of it your body actually absorbs. Turmeric without black pepper is mostly passing through you unused. Turmeric with a pinch of black pepper is a completely different story. Number two, and this is the twist I promised you at the start. This outbreak might not be a lettuce story at all. It might be a water story. Some researchers investigating this outbreak have pointed out that roughly 45% of the irrigation water used on American produce fields is untreated surface water, the kind that sits exposed to runoff, agricultural waste, and in some documented cases, leaking septic systems. If that water is what's carrying the parasite, then washing your lettuce isn't really washing away a random surface germ, it's washing away something that may have been sprayed directly onto the crop as it grew. This isn't a new lesson in the history of disease, by the way. Back in 1854, during a cholera outbreak in London's Soho district, a physician named John Snow ignored the popular theory that bad air was to blame and instead mapped every single death by address. They all clustered around one public water pump on Broad Street. He had the pump handle removed, and the outbreak collapsed almost overnight. That single act is considered the birth of modern epidemiology, and it proved something we're relearning right now. Disease can travel invisibly through water that looks completely clean. We saw it again in Milwaukee in 1993, when a parasite related to this one slipped through a municipal water treatment system and sickened an estimated 400,000 people, more than half the entire population served by that water system, with the worst outcomes concentrated almost entirely among people who were already older or immunocompromised. So, what does this mean for you right now, today, this summer? If you're anywhere near the affected region, treat untreated lake, pond, or river water as off limits. Don't swim with your head under. And don't let a well meaning grandkid convince you pool chlorine kills everything, because this particular parasite is notably chlorine resistant. If you're caring for someone with a weakened immune system, this might be the summer to lean on bottled or filtered water rather than straight tap. Not because your municipal water is unsafe under normal testing, but because the margin for error with a compromised immune system is simply thinner right now. Which brings us to number one, the single most powerful thing on this entire list. More powerful than any wash technique, any supplement, any water precaution. It's knowing the three warning signs that mean stop waiting and get medical help now, instead of trying to ride it out at home. Here's why this ranks above everything else I've told you. In a healthy immune system, your body genuinely can, and usually does, clear this parasite on its own. The lining of your small intestine has specialized immune cells that recognize the invader and mount a real defense. And human bodies have been fighting off gut parasites for as long as there have been humans. That part is reassuring, and I don't want to take that away from you. But here is the caveat that changes everything for anyone over 60, especially anyone dealing with cancer treatment, diabetes, heart disease, or simply advanced age. Winning on your own can still take weeks, sometimes over a month, of relapsing, exhausting, watery diarrhea that fades and then returns. For a healthy younger adult, that's a miserable month. For a frail older adult, those same weeks aren't just unpleasant, they're a slow drain on hydration and strength that can spiral into exactly the kind of hospitalization statistic I mentioned earlier. So here are your three red flags. And I want you to actually write these down or screenshot this part of the video. 1. Diarrhea that continues for more than 2 to 3 days without any let up, especially if it's frequent and watery rather than occasional. 2. Any sign of dehydration itself. And here's the tricky part for older adults specifically. It often doesn't look like classic thirst. It looks like confusion, dizziness when standing, a noticeably faster heartbeat, or urine that's become dark and infrequent. Because remember, the thirst alarm is already unreliable in an aging body, so you have to watch the other signs instead. 3. Any fever, or the inability to keep fluids down at all, even small sips. If you see any one of those three, that's not a wait and see situation anymore. That's a call your doctor today situation. Or if it's severe, an urgent care or emergency room visit, because the treatment for this parasite is a simple, well established antibiotic combination that works well when it's given. And the real danger was never that your body couldn't fight the parasite. It was that dehydration was allowed to get ahead of you while you waited. I want to leave you with something bigger than just this outbreak, though, because I think it matters more than any single checklist. Every single item on this list, scrubbing before you cut, drinking on a schedule instead of waiting to feel thirsty, understanding what's actually in the water reaching your table, knowing the difference between a rough week and a genuine emergency. Every one of these is really about the same thing. It's about staying independent. It's about not letting something as ordinary as a summer stomach bug turn into a hospital stay that steals weeks of your strength, your mobility, and your quality of life. I've spent my career around families navigating aging and serious illness. And the pattern I see over and over is that the people who stay strongest into their 80s and 90s aren't the ones who never face a health scare. They're the ones who catch the small things early before they become big things. It is never too late to build a better habit, never too late to start paying closer attention to your hydration, never too late to learn one more piece of information that keeps you or someone you love out of a hospital bed. That's really what this channel is for. If this helped you, do two things for me. Subscribe so you get information like this before it turns into a headline. And tell me in the comments which one of these five surprised you the most, and are you dealing with this outbreak in your area right now? I read every comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and take care of the people counting on you.